Welcome to Public Health Matters, the show that addresses public health issues that matter the most to the citizens of Harford County. Real issues, real people, and the information you need to know.
Hello, I'm Rania Nassar, Public Information Officer for the Harford County Health Department, and your host for today's Public Health Matters, the show that takes a closer look at the public health issues that matter the most to the citizens of Harford County. Today's topic for Public Health Matters is breastfeeding. We'll be discussing this topic in order to raise awareness of the benefits that breastfeeding can bring to both the mother and baby, and identify local resources for those in need. Joining us today is Elizabeth Busy Card, Breastfeeding Peer Counselor at the Harford County Health Department WIC program, and Sarah Gonzalez, Internationally Board Certified Lactation Consultant at the Harford County Health Department. Welcome to our show, and thank you for being with us today.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah,
Thanks
you.
for having us.
So I'm really excited to have you both here. This is an awesome topic. I just wanted you both to take a moment to introduce yourself and what your connection is with breastfeeding. Sarah, if you want to start.
Yeah, I'm Sarah Gonzalez, and I started off about 13 years ago in the breastfeeding field. And I started off as a breastfeeding peer counselor, like Busy, at the WIC program. And from there, I progressed to getting certified as an IBCLC, which is an internationally board certified lactation consultant. But more importantly, I've actually have my own experience breastfeeding my own two children who are now almost 14 and 10. So a lot of my breastfeeding support and knowledge that I draw from comes from my own personal experience with them.
That's great, thank you. And Busy?
So I'm a breastfeeding peer counselor at WIC, as you said. I've been there for about 18 months.
Wow.
As Sarah said, I also have personal breastfeeding experience, breastfeeding my son. He just turned 2 and we're still breastfeeding. And I am working on like towards my IBCLC.
Awesome.
So yeah, I'm really excited. And so that's my connection with breastfeeding.
Great. Yeah, thanks ladies. So according to the CDC, only 1 in 4 infants are exclusively breastfed at recommended by the time they are 6 months old. So why is it only 1 out of 4?
So I feel like it comes down to, in a lot of these situations, a lack of support. Unfortunately, moms a lot of times are having to return back to work very, soon after having their baby. And if they don't have the support that they need, a lot of times breastfeeding, unfortunately, has to end prematurely. Something else that I think is, a lot of times, breastfeeding issues that a mom may be experiencing, if she doesn't have help or someone to go to ask questions, then she may unfortunately end up, having to stop breastfeeding.
Yeah, and so it doesn't add up. So you have, a lot of women here in the U.S. only have 3 months of maternity leave, and we recommend them to breastfeed up to 6 months. So I feel really bad for mothers, especially, going through everything they have to go through pregnancy, and then they deliver the baby, and then they have to breastfeed, and then they have to go back to work after 3 months. I'm sure that's also exhausting, I can imagine.
Exactly, and something we would come across in the WIC program would be some women would have to return back to work even sooner than 3 months.
Yeah,
it could be a week or two after birth. Yeah.
I can't imagine how hard it is. So what would be some of the reasons that a new mother might be hesitant to breastfeed? I know there could be a lot of myths out there.
Again, as Sarah said, like lack of support. And then a lot of moms, I feel like, haven't, like the only things they've heard about breastfeeding are like not good things. They haven't, people that have tried to breastfeed, those are the only experiences that they've heard, like where the mom didn't do as well.
Horror stories.
Exactly. And so like when I ask a mom, like, what have you heard about breastfeeding? It hurts, it's painful, my milk's not gonna come in, mostly only bad things.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there are some times where I hear good things, but I feel like it comes down to like what moms have heard about it and what moms know about it. And I feel like that's why they can be hesitant.
That's why part of our job sometimes is dispelling some of these myths, and hopefully during the pregnancy, so that we can get, some accurate information and get that mom knowing, that she can breastfeed.
Great. So let's go into the benefits. So what types of benefits does breastfeeding provide for both mother and the child? I know there could be probably the longest list ever, but if you can go through some of those.
Yes, absolutely. I feel like we could talk.
We could talk for days.
This entire show about just the benefits. But yeah, that's the neat part. And a lot of moms don't know that there's benefits for them as well as for their baby. So one of the neatest ones I think is just the bond. Mm-hmm. I love talking about how that is so beneficial to both mom and baby. Is that bonding experience that they're getting through breastfeeding. Another one is, we talk about breastfeeding, making babies healthier, but when it comes down to it, the actual mechanism of it is, every time you or your baby are exposed to anything, you're passing those antibodies through your milk to your baby, and it's keeping your baby protected, against these illnesses. And, during the times we're in right now with COVID, any protection we can give our babies and our children, we definitely want, and we can provide that with breast milk.
That's great.
There's, like a lower risk of like heart disease, obesity, a decreased risk of SIDS. It's basically optimal nutrition. It's like, I tell moms, it's like breast milk is magic.
Yes, look at gold,
Every
right?
appointment I'm like, breast milk is magic. Like, it's amazing.
That's great.
Absolutely. And for the mom, it absolutely provides benefits to her as well. Breast cancer, and there's just so many benefits to her.
Yeah, and you can use breast milk on anything for a baby. So if
yes,
the baby has a scar or anything,
Yes.
put breast milk on it, right?
No matter what the problem, just put breast milk on it.
Yeah. So according to the CDC, younger mothers aged 20 to 29 years are less likely to ever breastfeed than mothers aged 30 years or older. So what other breastfeeding disparities are out there, and how can we work to kind of improve this?
So I think one huge disparity is just low-income women in general having lower breastfeeding rates. And again, I think that a lot of that is based off of what we were talking about, having to return back to work very quickly, not having the same level of support, just those types of issues that low-income families, have to deal with. And that's, kind of where we come in at the WIC program too, is trying to help these women and providing support. The peer counseling program is basically, a peer support. So for these women who are low income, it's other women who have been low income at some point or have been on the WIC program, and women who look like the women that are on the WIC program, and it's providing them that support. So that's something that is used to try to help for that disparity.
That's great. Yeah, you guys play such an important role, so thank you for that. Let's talk a little bit about diet. So how about, can you guys explain kind of like what a good diet is, or what should mothers be eating when they are going through breastfeeding?
So I tell moms, there's not a specific diet you have to follow. And I don't know if like you would agree to this, but basically whatever you're hungry for, you can eat. Obviously like try to follow like the food pyramid, and like a little bit of healthy eating, but like if you're hungry for a cheeseburger, eat a cheeseburger, and like, there's no diet you have to follow. Like if you think if it's okay for you, then it's okay to breastfeed while you're eating it.
Yeah.
Yep. And sometimes when breastfeeding, you're burning some more calories. We know that much, which is one of the benefits of it, right? Yeah. But so sometimes women will find themselves needing to eat a little bit extra, and that's totally fine. Sometimes there can be some myths around diet and breastfeeding. Some women will think, hey, if I don't have a perfect diet, I shouldn't breastfeed my baby, or my baby's not getting what they need. And we know that our bodies are really, really good at providing our babies with what they need based off of what we're eating, even if it's not a perfect diet.
Yeah. And probably more stress on mothers, like after they have the baby and then they're breastfeeding, and now they're like, oh, I have to concentrate on what I need to eat. But
I know.
They just need to eat. Like that's
exactly
really what it comes down to, and I think that's what's really
And
important.
I feel like moms think they have to drink like a ton of extra water too, and like really it's just drinking to thirst. Like your body knows what to do, and it's gonna make the milk.
Yeah. And the word diet sometimes can be a little negative too,
right.
as well.
We don't want that extra stress added onto the mom to think, oh my goodness, I have to take this out of my diet or that. No, our bodies they know what the baby needs.
What are some legal rights that have to do with that breastfeeding mothers may have, and can breastfeeding sometimes be a controversial topic?
Yes, so I think breastfeeding can unfortunately be a controversial topic. It seems like it shouldn't need to be, right?
Exactly,
You know,
yes.
but unfortunately in our society, it can be, especially when we talk about things like breastfeeding in public and taking time during the workday for pumping and things like that. You know, there's varying levels of support in our society for that, but we're hoping to move that along to get better,
Exactly.
right?
The more education we
our
put
goal.
out there, the less controversial it should become.
Right,
Yeah.
for everyone. And we always like to tell moms, first of all, that it is their right to breastfeed wherever they're allowed to be.
Yep.
And you do not have to cover it. And it is all about what you feel good with, what that mom is comfortable with. You know, some women prefer to go into breastfeeding rooms or, you know, cover themselves. And some women are like, hey, you know what? I'm feeding my baby and this is what is best for my baby. And, you know, and that is okay. Both of those, whatever the mom is feeling, is totally fine. But she is by law allowed to do that. And then the same, you know, she has legal rights as far as pumping, you know. We, thank goodness, most businesses do have to provide pumping time and a space that is not a bathroom. So we like to arm moms with that information so that when they do go back to work and things like that, that we can say, hey, know your rights, know what you are able to do. This is your baby. You have the right to do this. It can be hard sometimes to stand up to that.
Yeah.
But it's really, really important.
It really is.
Yeah, I know the health department, we have a specific room that women can either breastfeed or if they need to pump to express their milk. Like, we have a private room that's designated for that at the health department. And because not all women have like their own private offices. Some people just have
Exactly.
cube
Yes,
spaces. So
yes.
making sure that there's that you know, special area that they feel, you know, safe and comfortable in, like you said, is not a bathroom. And wouldn't it be great if we can get Harford County, every business, to make sure
Yes.
that they had a designated area for breastfeeding mothers?
That would be
And
amazing.
having like letting all of these moms know about their rights, and like going back to work and like them having a safe space to breastfeed, like it's going to kind of make or break like if they're going to continue breastfeeding or not. So I feel like it's like really important to put that information out there that there, you know, your work does require you to have like there is a safe space at work. Like,
Yeah, yeah. So what are some precautions that need to be taken when handling breast milk? So proper storage, things like that.
so we say 3 to 4 hours of room temperature, up to 4 days in the fridge. It's best to use it by 6 months in the freezer, but up to 12 months like in a deep freezer.
Okay.
Yep, and all of that information can be found on the WIC website and on the CDC website if anybody ever has questions.
Yes.
I always like to tell families, like they have little magnets and things that you can put on the refrigerator just to be, you know, as a reminder, and especially if they're leaving milk with a daycare provider, it can be good to provide that caregiver with that information as well, whether they print it out or have, at WIC, we have brochures that have it, and to give that person that information so that everybody's on the same page, because you will hear varying guidelines for breast
yeah, you
milk
definitely will.
storage. So it's good to kind of stick with what CDC, you know,
Yeah.
kind of says.
That's a really good idea. Definitely keep them more organized for sure. What diseases can pass from mother to baby through breast milk, and how can this be avoided?
So there are some that can, but you know, that would basically be a conversation that someone would want to have with their doctor based on what the illness is. However, one thing to remember is that, you know, if if the mom has like a basic cold or, you know, illness like that, sometimes they'll think, hey, I can't breastfeed because of this. But the thing to remember is that we like to say, no, if you're sick, that actually is the best time to breastfeed,
Exactly,
because you are going to be passing those antibodies to your baby to keep your baby from getting sick, or at least not as severely sick.
Oh, wow. Do you guys have some tips for successful breastfeeding that you could provide to moms?
I feel like, you know, having support is going to help, you know. Everybody like in your family being on board with you breastfeeding and just saying, hey, like I'm planning on breastfeeding and this is important to me. And if they have good support, it's going to be easier than if, you know, they don't have any support at all. And then at WIC, we like to give out like educational material and like let them know like their whole pregnancy, like what to expect with breastfeeding, so if they have any questions. So I feel like getting like taking a lactation class or like a breastfeeding class before you have the baby, like that's, you know, that can kind of help get breastfeeding off to a good start.
Yeah, I think like Busy said, like having your team in place and like your tribe, you know, so like, and it's important to do that prenatally. You know, you don't want to wait until after the fact and you're having problems and then you don't really know where to turn to or where to go. You know, prenatal education about breastfeeding and finding what support we offer locally is one of the most important things you can do to gear yourself up to have a successful breastfeeding relationship. You can find out if there's support groups, you can find out if there's local lactation consultants and programs, just talking to friends, family that have breastfed before, and just kind of getting everyone on the same page to know that they'll be there when you're needing that support when you have the baby.
And probably not putting too much pressure on yourself too.
Exactly, yes.
I can imagine like, you know, wanting to, you know, set yourself some goals and things like that. And I know, you know, things can happen along the way. So, you know, probably not setting this like really high expectation, but, you know, giving yourself some grace and
and I guess that's why like the education, like, or like those breastfeeding classes or learning a little bit about breastfeeding before you have the baby is important, because as Sarah said, like, if you don't have any knowledge and you're planning on breastfeeding and then you hit like a bump in the road, you're like, okay, well, this is too much, I'm gonna stop, you know? But if you know beforehand, you're like, oh, this might happen, but I know I have help, you know, it can be easier.
Yeah, those are some really good tips. What can partners, friends, and family members do to help a mom be successful?
So there's a lot they can do. And, you know, I think that's a really common misconception is that, hey, if mom's breastfeeding, nobody else can help her. Nobody else can do anything but feed the baby, you know. But there's so many other things. I like to tell moms, you know, the feeding isn't what takes the most time. It's all the other stuff, the diaper changes, the skin to skin, rocking baby to sleep, those things. And family members can all partake in that and have their own bonding time with the baby. You know, fathers can still bond with baby and do skin to skin and give mom time to herself. You know, all of those are helpful. And then just supporting the mom as well. So it can be simple things like bringing her food. I think every mom should have food brought to her. I mean, that just fixes everything, right? Helping to care and bond with other children in the family that, you know, if mom is breastfeeding and might not have time to do things with some older children. So I think there is a lot of other ways that family members and friends can help.
Yeah, I completely agree. Changing diapers, you know, washing the dishes, you know, bringing the baby to her in the middle of the night to feed so she doesn't have to get up. Like there's a ton of ways that they can be supportive and helpful without like actually breastfeeding.
Yeah. So according to healthychildren.org, a common myth about breastfeeding is that all babies should be weaned off before their first birthday. Is there a general rule of thumb for what age that women should stop breastfeeding?
So the new guidelines are, the CDC has always said like, I think till 2, but the American Academy of Pediatrics has, their new guidelines are breastfeeding to age 2 and beyond.
Oh, wow.
It's gonna still be beneficial for baby. I'm not sure why most moms think it's 1, but it's definitely not. I always tell moms, like, when they ask me how long should you breastfeed for, it's really up to you and the baby. Any amount of breastfeeding is good, but I would say, like, for me, like, I'm still breastfeeding my 2-year-old, and anything is beneficial, like, even after 1, you know?
Absolutely. And if you look worldwide, 1 is actually a very young age for weaning. So in other countries, it is very common to breastfeed children for many years. And that's, you know, that's considered completely normal, and it is very beneficial for the child. So the nutrition and the benefits of breastfeeding do not magically disappear when that child hits their first birthday. They continue. And the benefits are not just nutritional as well. So a lot of it is the bonding and that safe base with the mom and that connection. That is going to be as, you know, a benefit for as long as that child is breastfeeding for. And then the antibodies in the milk will continue helping that child with their immune system, even as they reach toddlerhood and preschool age. That is going to be beneficial to the child.
And I guess, like, when they say you should only breastfeed to a year, it comes back to that controversy. Like, it's just what America expects and, like, what they see, and, like, you know, breastfeeding can be controversial for some reason. And I feel like moms just, like, think that they're expected to stop because no one wants to see you breastfeeding an older child.
Yeah, but as we talked about today, there's just so many more benefits even
Exactly,
after age
yes.
1. So we should kind of keep promoting women to continue breastfeeding
Yes.
for sure.
Yes, absolutely.
Do you guys have any resources that are available in Harford County to assist breastfeeding mothers, or any type of mother that wants to breastfeed but are having some, maybe just a little bit of some difficulties?
Yeah, so one of the biggest support systems would be WIC, you know, so we have breastfeeding peer counselors. Many WICs have IBCLCs on staff to help WIC participants with any breastfeeding issues, with prenatal education. It's a great resource that not a lot of people know about. The other is local hospitals. Many will have support groups. So our local hospital, Upper Chesapeake, does have a breastfeeding support group, and they have information about that on their website.
Yes.
And it is staffed with IBCLCs. Women are able to go and get weight checks, get pre and post weights to see how much their baby is taking in at the breast. And it's also just a group of women just kind of, developing a bond and can talk and share. And it's really a great resource for people to go to.
A lot of moms here in Harford County love it, so.
Oh, I can imagine. Like seeing, you're not doing this alone. There's
Exactly,
other women
yes.
out there that are also experiencing the same things that you're experiencing. So it's great, I'm sure, to have other women, being surrounded by just other women, and feeling like, you're not alone in this. There's other people that have the same experiences.
Yes.
So to
And
get that support is great.
And I always tell moms, like, at WIC, we're super pro breastfeeding. We want you to breastfeed if you can, if you want to. And as Sarah said, like latch help, pumping help, sore nipples, anything, like call us before you decide to stop, like we can help you through it. So definitely calling WIC and becoming part of our program, like we're super for it. We want you to if you can.
That's amazing. So it's great that Harford County does have a WIC program here. Can you just go a little bit about, what is the WIC program, just quickly, and eligibility requirements for that?
So WIC is Women, Infants, and Children. We are a program for pregnant mothers, postpartum mothers, and children, infants to age 5.
So as far as eligibility, it is income-based, but the good news is that anyone who is already receiving medical assistance, Medicaid, or receiving food stamps is actually automatically eligible for the program, and a lot of people don't know that. So if their child is receiving medical assistance or the mom received it throughout the pregnancy, they are automatically eligible to be on the WIC program. And then if they don't have either of those, then we just look at income to determine eligibility.
And the locations in Harford County, we have multiple, so we have...
We do.
We have 4. We have the Havre de Grace office, we have the Bel Air office, we have an Edgewood office, and then we also have a Cecil office, which is in Elkton.
Okay, wow. So, around Harford County, there's multiple places.
So it's easy to find a location to find us.
Great. Is there anything else that you both would like to add today about breastfeeding, WIC, any of those topics?
Well, I will just add that, one thing that COVID taught us is that virtual support can be something that's really important. And because of that, there has been some virtual support groups developed in our county. And there's a lot of really good online resources and mom groups. So I really do always encourage moms to reach out to those groups and kind of, it can be hard for a mom to, find her tribe sometimes after the birth. So connecting even virtually, if she's not comfortable going to any of the in-person resources, can be huge.
Yeah.
I completely agree.
Yeah, that's great. Well, thank you ladies so much for taking the time to speak with us today and talk about breastfeeding and the WIC program and just how amazing breastfeeding is for mothers and the baby. So thank you.
You're so welcome.
Thanks
Thanks
so
for
much
having
for
us.
having us.
Of course. Well, that's all the time we have for today. I'd like to thank my guests on today's show, Busy Card and Sarah Gonzalez. And if you'd like more information on breastfeeding, please refer to the resources page after the show. And join us next time for another important issue that matters the most to the citizens of Harford County. Thank you so much for watching.
You've been watching Public Health Matters, brought to you by Harvard TV. Watch what matters.